be honest with ourselves, there's been a lot of changes in the world since my last video.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Including, apparently, G-Wolves, who seemingly have entirely rehabilitated their image from peddling rattle monkey QC lottery peripherals to their latest mouse, the HTS Plus 4K, being a no-cap contender for the best gaming mouse you can buy in 2022. It seemed only right that a mouse this hype be the one that finally brought Daddy home from the shop with his pint of milk 4 months later to talk nerdy to you all. The HTS Plus 4K is G-Wolves' latest flagship mouse, and whilst it is a bit of a looker, it isn't just a pretty face, with some mighty impressive specs and internals that put it ahead of top mice in many ways. To talk first impressions, it's well presented in a discreet cardboard box and is the first G-Wolves mouse not to include their signature metal lunchbox tin, and I personally don't miss it, and if it saves a couple of dollars off the price tag, then happy days. Otherwise, it's stuffed with goodies and we'll run through them in just a moment, but I have got to break the bad news to you. There is no G-Wolves makeup brush this time around. F's in chat for the fallen homie. G-Wolves, you're better than this. On a positive note, what they do give you is all killer no filler. My review copy had an angled charging flexible paracord with the high-speed receiver attached, 2 sets of spare full-size skates, 2 sets of dot skates, 2 sets of absolutely fire grip tape in red and black, and a couple of kind of curious looking little mystery blue spatula things. Turns out in the quest for ultimate weight reduction, G-Wolves decided that adding a power switch would be just one step too far. Instead, we have to probe the poor girl's bottom with these devices and look for the PCB switch on the board in a kind of my mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes kind of procedure to turn the mouse on and off. Regardless, G-Wolves claim that the sleep mode on the mouse is smart enough that you can just leave it switched on and you shouldn't have to violate your poor mouse's insides too frequently. Unless, of course, you're into that, and hey, it's 2022, who am I to judge? Turns out, removing vital components for weight reduction is absolutely the play, because my unit, with dot skates on, weighs in a featherlight 49 grams. And yes, I did peel the base sticker off and used dot skates for that extra 0.4 grams of weight saving, because I am just that extra. On that note, good guy G-Wolves for keeping the base flat so the skate nerds can use whatever kind of exotic garbage is trending that week without having to sand it down to accommodate. For a mid-sized wireless plastic mouse with no top shell holes or cutouts, it's unbelievable that G-Wolves have managed to drop into the 40 gram range. Previously, weights like these were the exclusive domain of the Final Mouse Chad Lite 12, but they needed more holes than Amber Heard's witness testimony to achieve it. Now, I'm not going to definitively say that lower weight mice will improve your aim, and if you want to use an 80 grams owie, then more power to you. But if you haven't had a chance to use a mouse this light and want to see what all the fuss is about, it's great to see that G-Wolves have made one that you can just pre-order and wait for, rather than battle box like some checkout John Connor in the Final Mouse drops. Now, personally, I fingertip grip and find that light mice are more comfortable over longer sessions and allow me to micro adjust with more ease. I do find though that with mice this light, my shaky boomer aim takes a little more controlling, but pulling out a control pad like the Vaxi PA, the Artisan Zero, or our boy, the IKEA Lawn Spillari, had me tracking and flicking, I guess, like a pro. Again, I'm also not quite sure why this mouse uses the HTS name, because the size and shape are really nothing like the regular HTS, unless of course the S this time stands for swole, and maybe it does, I don't know, I'll ask G-Wolves. You could make the argument that they're similar, I guess, and they're only a few millimeters different in length and height. But in terms of mice, these millimeters make significant differences to how they feel in the hand and how they perform. The Hearty S Plus name doesn't really do just how much larger this feels in the hand. It's less small and I guess extra medium, or smedium if we had to call it a size. In fact, dimension-wise, it's closer to the Starlight 12 medium than the original Hearty S namesake. So if you used the Hearty S and found it either too small or too heavy, the Hearty S Plus could be the play that makes it finally work for you. I have 10 by 20 centimeter hands, and I think that this would ideally suit a fingertip or claw player with similar medium to large hands, and I'd probably avoid palming this thing at risk of getting it lost underneath your hand. Look at the poor thing there. The low weight doesn't make the mouse feel any less premium either. There's no creak, no flex, and no rattle in the mouse, and the coating almost feels like a Logitech G Pro X Superlight, just with a bit more texture, a bit more cushion for the push-in up the back here. Even without the grip tape, which is great as I said by the way, I didn't feel like I was having any trouble keeping my fingers firmly anchored when it got sweaty in competitive. G-Wolves have made a big deal about using Zippy 60 switches in the main clicks, and not being a switch connoisseur or nerd, I didn't really know why folks were standing these switches so hard. But having used them, I can absolutely hear and feel a difference when compared to more common switches like Chinese Omron 20Ms or KLGM 8.0s. They're much lighter and easier to actuate and have a softer sound, almost like a pop more than a click. Now, I could do a sound test here, but they're so boring they make me want to put a bullet in my skull. So instead, what I'm going to tell you to do is pour some milk in a bowl of Rice Krispies and just hold that bowl up to your ears for a few seconds. Same energy, same vibe. The side buttons and the scroll wheel are also both inoffensive and function. I mostly find I really only have strong opinions about either when there's a problem, and fortunately none to report here. They both scroll and indeed click as expected, and the side buttons are large enough that you should be able to navigate with even the most chimp-like thumbs onto the buttons. The mouse ships with G-Wolves software, which is entirely functional and capable, but you're never going to convince me that it's not harvesting my personal data for the might and glory of the CCP. It has the usual suspects that you'd expect: button reassigning, debounce time adjustments, DPI stages, and a high and low lift-off distance adjustment. It also includes a little bonus Wheel of Fortune battery indicator that kind of just displays any percentage it feels like that given moment in time. Now, I've used high pole rate mice in the past, but these have always been wired like the Viper 8K or the Zalkonish M2K. It wasn't until Razer dropped the hyper polling dongle, I think it's called, that 4000 Hz wireless suddenly became the new hotness and something that other companies are racing to catch up with. G-Wolves are not only the first to meet Razer at that 4000 Hz threshold, but have sprinted past them with a solid shell mouse that's almost 10 grams lighter than the Viper V2 Pro. Now, there is a prevailing argument to be made that you cannot tell the difference between 1000 and 4000 Hz in a blind Pepsi challenging game, and honestly, I am almost certainly not a good enough player to dispute that. But I also think there is a hidden unmeasurable and under-discussed buff that comes with the 4000 Hz, and I'm going to call that Big PP Energy. I found myself playing more confidently with the HTS Plus at 4000 Hz, and sometimes that is the difference in making a play or choking the play. Massive disclaimer, I am not your go-to tech nerd channel, so I cannot speak for how stable or consistent the 4000 Hz is on a little graph. But in the hand and in game, to me at least, it felt smooth. I had no jitters, skipping, acceleration or motion delay in any testing, including games that support high rate polling like Overwatch 2. But before you go and throw away all your 1000 Hz mice, it isn't all rainbows and unicorns. Enabling 4000 Hz will cut your battery life down from a respectable 80 hours at 1000 Hz to a meager 22 hours at 4. There's also one last elephant in the room, and I've got to say that is the G-Wolves website that the mouse is going to be exclusively sold on, at least at release. They have a strict no returns policy published, which I'm told doesn't apply to standard warranty claims or faulty mice, but I can't comment on how well that policy is applied and how returns are handled myself, having not had to either buy a G-Wolves mouse through the website or indeed return one through the website. I started this video saying that I think that G-Wolves have a contender for one of the top mice in 2022, and after running through the specs and what you get, I'm still confident in making that statement. It's lighter than any other solid shape wireless mouse at 49 grams outside of the little man HSK Plus, and that's also made by G-Wolves. It isn't cheap at $160, but sadly nowadays, what is? If you are looking for a medium mouse that's super lightweight, has some of the best performance available and feels premium and unique to use, then G-Wolves could legit be your endgame mouse. For me, honestly, I'm struggling to find a reason to use anything other than this, at least for now, so G-Wolves HTS Plus 4K, GG well played, and to quote an underappreciated classic, HTS Plus 4K, you're my new main, until you're dead or I find someone better. Points in the comments if you're old enough to get that reference. And if you are new to the channel, I'd like to remind you that what I say is the opinion of one moulding boomer. And because of that, I will never make a recommendation on what mouse you should get. You do you. But if you've enjoyed this inane rambling enough to want to try it out for yourself, then feel free to use the code GETREVIEWS on the G-Wolves website to save yourself 10 freedom dollars. There's a code down below and link in the description to help me pay my ever-increasing utility bills this winter. Thanks for sticking around. If you made it this far, you're the homie. Hopes and prayers your crush notices each and every one of you this week, and I will see you in the next.